So both the real estate and reality TV markets right now are mayhem. So the timing of this podcast literally is perfect. Jason, thank you so much for being with us today. We did a full intro on your background and where you went to school, attorney gone real estate broker gone owner, and you start the Oppenheim Group in 2014. At any capacity, in any sight of mind, did you ever expect that your real estate brokerage group would somehow grow into a reality TV sensation? And was that ever in the business plan anywhere when you started this group?
No, that was not in the, well, I didn't even have a business plan, but if I did, that would not have been in it. No, that was just luck or, honestly, it was specifically not in the business plan, meaning we didn't want to do a reality show, even when we had been approached many times because we thought it was too risky and we were already doing so well. So no, I initially we thought it would be more risk than reward. Obviously, in retrospect, I'm really happy.
Of course. One thing I want to ask you before we get too much in the Selling Sunset side and how that correlates to Oppenheim Group financial successes, I read that when you started the group, you started out in a spare bedroom with one intern. How much financial stress were you undertaking when you started the Oppenheim Group, and what led to the growth that you guys have had today?
So I started in real estate in about 2010, and it took me about 3 or 4 years just to build, a business where I was becoming successful, more successful than I was as an attorney. I mean, the first couple of years were very, very little money. Third year was okay. Fourth year was pretty good. And that's when I left to start my own company. I had assumed that my revenue would go down significantly when I started my own company. I was going to be no longer associated with Coldwell Banker. And I just thought that, being on my own and, starting the Oppenheim Group, which nobody had ever heard of, and not having an office and, the support and whatever it is that these brokerages convince you that is so important, that is actually not important. But, when you're there and you get inculcated and you're told like how important it is to be at a big brokerage, you believe it. So yeah, I was prepared to make a lot less money that year in 2014. And it ended up, and yeah, I started in it was an office. It was a second bedroom, and it was a 2-bedroom house. And it was the second bedroom, and it was just me and an intern. And we had a great year. We did really well out of that house. So well that the next year I said, I want to get an office across the street. My house is across the street from this office, or the house I was living at. And I'm like, I'm going to build out an office. I'm going to hire some friends, and it just kind of organically grew. I never had like a plan. In fact, I'm not really someone who believes in goals and business plans. I mean, every day I just work as hard as I can and make the decisions that I think are best for me. And then it just kind of moves in the right direction. But I don't really sit around thinking like, this is what I expect in year 3. This is what I expect in year 4. I mean, I don't know how that really helps,
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly worked out. Like whatever that is, like the intuition and the vision you have is aside from just like following a blueprint plan, clearly has worked. I think one thing you can give a lot of people intel to that your average individual wouldn't be able to see is the big difference in compensation from going big corporate like a Coldwell to actually owning your own shop. And a lot of people are inspired by your show that have become real estate agents. So tell us a little bit about compensation. How drastically is it different from working for the big dog? How much are they taking off the top versus how much are you then profiting when it's your own shop, your own brand, your own boutique?
That's such a good question, because right now I would say it's probably better to be at a large brokerage if you're an agent, that's doing okay, because you can negotiate some really good splits at some of the top brokerages. Probably, if you're making a couple $100,000 a year, you probably get an 80-20 split. Back, in 10, 15 years ago, it was probably a 60-40 split. So it's kind of been a race to the bottom. This is why brokerages are going bankrupt and why they've all lost, half their market cap in the last year or two. I mean, you're seeing Compass and Douglas Elliman, headed towards, well, maybe bankruptcy if we go into a recession or things slow down. But so yeah, and then you don't have all the hassle of office space, branding, marketing, design, insurance, errors and omissions, it's a heck of a lot easier. If you're not like a cold-blooded entrepreneur that really wants to work for him or herself, I would recommend just taking the easy route. I don't think you make more money. Yeah, you may save 20%, but your overhead and the time demand, I think, largely vastly exceeds the money that you would make. If you want to grow a brokerage,
guys.
So I want to interrupt, but just to say, if you want to, first of all, I would not grow a brokerage. I would not open up a brokerage right now. The brokerage model is dead. So for that reason, I would also work at a larger brokerage, to be quite honest, right now.
I mean, guys, you're hearing it directly from Jason Oppenheim. Go with the big brokers, especially in 2022. There's a lot more. There's a little less glam than what you might see on television, and that's what I want to actually ask you about, Jason. One of the things you said is that you actually had a lot of hesitation to doing Selling Sunset because of the risk that inherently come with unscripted television. Looking back at where you guys are today, did any of those risks come to fruition? That you obviously, there's been a ton of success, and I went over that in the intro, but do you look at any of those risks that you were worried about that have come to fruition and are still an impediment for what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
No, I really haven't seen the risks come to fruition. It's really been just a lot of upside. There are the risks that I had thought about, our reputation and that. No, I mean, have there been, is it demanding professionally and emotionally to be, filming a show and being the broker to so many people on a show? Yes. That has been very demanding on me. And while I wouldn't call that a risk, it's certainly a side effect of doing a show. But no, I mean, all the risks that I had initially thought of just did not end up being a concern.
That's awesome. And when you guys actually did the Netflix deal and you start the process of filming, did you know that there was a high propensity it could get picked up? Was it guaranteed that it would be picked up? What did the outlook look like when you underwent that entire filming process?
Well, they initially just picked up a pilot. So you film a 20-minute pilot, probably that would never go to air.
Yeah.
And that's just for them to watch, and to decide if they want to pick up a full season. And they did watch it, and then they picked up a full season. So then we knew we had at least one, 8-episode season. But you don't know, every season you film, you don't know if you're going to be, well, that's not true, because we generally film like 2 seasons in a row, but they just pick up a year at a time, essentially. So you're never committed beyond that. Well, I guess we're committed because we signed longer term contracts. But I mean, Netflix and probably any other streaming service, they can decide at any moment that they don't want to continue filming. And I think, they have to watch the success of the show every season. And they have all these metrics, and they watch it for a month, and they see what happens, and then they make a decision.
5 seasons later, you guys are seeing the ratings, they're skyrocketing by the minute from at least everything we can read and we get a hold of. When you look at compensation from the show, right? We had Rob Dyrdek come on talking about how he was able to negotiate with Netflix, and that he was getting $125K per episode, and then was able to integrate, he was able to negotiate integration brand rights. So he was making a couple million off an episode.
I apologize. What show is he on? Who is he?
Okay, so Rob Dyrdek, he was a famous skateboarder, world-renowned skateboarder. Then he started and was founded in DC Shoes. And then he had a show, Rob and Big, on MTV. And then there's the show Ridiculousness on MTV. If pretty much you go to MTV, it's the only show that's out there, Rob Dyrdek. And he's the host of that show. So he was able to negotiate those rights through the MTV. I think MTV has lost so much money from Rob Dyrdek that he's the only guy that they're showing and playing on 24-hour period. But that being said, what I want to correlate is like the actual business of the show versus the business of the Oppenheim Group. You guys have done almost $2 billion in sales. Do you look at the profitability from the show and your business, and are they somewhat weighted at this point? Or is the business still out significantly performing like any type of monetization from the television show?
The business is significantly outperforming any monetization from the show. For me, I would argue that many of the women have been able to to monetize their social media and, do a books and shoe lines and clothing lines. And so I think for many other people, the answer might be different, but because I'm not in any of those avenues of monetization, I'm just a real estate agent. Yeah, I mean, not even close. The business has and continues to be the large and significant source of revenue and income for me.
That's fascinating. And so with the business model, I was just recently approached for a show that's going on Amazon to do a real estate deal. We buy it, flip it. It was going to be an Airbnb, and it was for the purpose of filming. And so when I approached the guy who approached me on it, I was like, why are you bringing this deal to me? He's like, well, because we need to plan this episode. I'm like, if this episode wasn't in existence, would you bring the deal to me? And he said, probably not. And then it got me thinking about shows that have businesses in which it's also creating entertainment. And from your perspective, how much has that changed the way that you guys have had to manage the business? So you talked about some of the girls obviously aren't making what you make as an agent. Did you guys have to change a lot of the business core model and how you hire and who you bring on as agents and things like that to make sure that you're like fitting the mold of what the entertainment world would want?
No, I mean, the nice thing is that really the business just kind of moves on its own and they follow us. They've never ever asked me to change my business model in any regard, nor would I. I mean, it's kind of sacrosanct, and I think they know that. So I just run my business. I've had, most of the women on the show have been here or are people that I wanted to bring on, show or no show. So, and again, most of them were here before the show. So no, I mean, the nice thing is that no, my business is my business and I run it. And I've never had anyone ask me to change it.
Love it. All right. We're going to do just a quick couple rapid fires. Then we're going to get 5 to 10 minutes on Jason's outlook in the real estate industry. A couple little rapid fires here. Anyone that's on your team or a part of your team, who is one agent that you would not want to go up against in a deal if you were battling with that person?
My brother, because we would argue and we're both very stubborn. I mean, I've tried that before.
Okay, there you go. Your brother. All right. It can't be your brother. One real estate agent that that you sit them down at a lunch or you put them at a happy hour or you put them at a presentation when it comes to relationship development that they will hit a grand slam.
Oh, you mean with a client?
Yes.
I couldn't just pick one because the women are exceptional with clients. And I would argue that most of the women are better than me with clients. So I think that's why we work well. Sometimes I'm very abrupt and terse, maybe a little to the point, maybe it's very direct, almost to a point where if you don't know me, you might think I'm being like a little bit of a dick. Mm-hmm. So I think they're better than me. I think, I like to bring someone else on with me so I don't rub somebody the wrong way. I'll go into a house and rip it apart and tell them, yeah, I can rub people the wrong way because I'm just a little too direct. So I probably would put anyone as better than me in front of a client.
Anyone but myself. All right, then I got to ask you this.
Unless it's an existing client and they know me and they love that I'm honest and direct, but sometimes a new client can be a little bit like, whoa.
Yeah, I think direct is definitely a quality of yours, but obviously it's turned out to be extremely successful as you're one of the biggest and best brokers in the world. In the world of luxury real estate, when you're dealing with a clientele that has such outrageous expectations, and a lot of those expectations, from what I understand, is kind of the red carpet treatment. How have you been able to differentiate yourself in a space that you are so direct? Is it the knowledge? Is it the analytics? Is it the deal making? Like, what makes Jason so special?
Well, I don't want to sound, I appreciate that compliment. I think that my niche, if I have one, is the direct, honest approach. I think that so many of these wealthy buyers and sellers, particularly sellers, are often told what they want to hear or have, sycophantic relationships in business. And I think there are a lot of yes people out there. And a lot of real estate agents, what they think they need to do to get a listing is to tell the client what they want to hear. That a client thinks their property is worth $10 million and it's the best property in the world, you know, and they did it's their furniture. A lot of agents will go in and be like, oh my God, I love the furniture. I love what you did here. I love what you did here. Like everything's all jolly and happy. And the house is worth 10 million. But none of that is true. What I think the seller really needs to hear is that he's emotionally attached to his house. It's a nice house, but there are other houses much better on the market at $10 million. His house is worth $8.5 million. The furniture should be all removed and it should be staged, and he needs to paint the walls white, and he needs to do some new landscaping and do some new lighting. He has not kept the house up well, and he needs to, you know, not have his dog in the house during showings, and he needs to not live there during showings. And a lot of, and I think if it's a person that really is a good business person, I think they're going to understand that it's in their interest to hear those negatives and to hear that honesty, and then to come out on the market at the right price, and to come on it presenting at its best, and not to do reductions, and not to show the property, you know, with their own furniture and all the other shit that makes a house look bad. I mean, presentation matters so much more than people understand. So yeah, my niche is just to be super direct, super honest, and forceful, because even if a client disagrees with me, I will present them with evidence. I'll take them to other houses. And oftentimes clients don't go with me, to be honest. They'll go with another agent, the agent that told them what they wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. More often than not, 6 months later, when that listing contract expires, they call me and I sell the house. So, you know, it's up to them. I'm not going to tell a client what they want to hear just to get a listing.
I love the perspective there. I also think a lot of these people have a lot of order takers in their life. They also have a lot of delegation that they do on a day-to-day basis. And they're probably caught off a little off guard when they have someone come in that reverses the roles and says, I'm the expert here. If you want the best bang for your buck, if you want to get the best deal, you'll work with me, and this is how it's going to be done. And to your point, I'm sure people at that level also respect that niche and that probably directive. So it's obviously worked out for you. I think that's awesome. While we have you, Jason, I do have to get some perspective on just the market in general, right? You got more than 9 million home buyers right now that have been priced out of the market. And I know that's not the world that you operate in, but in general, there's a lot of question marks on what's next for real estate. Is there a bubble? What will the hikes be like? What does affordability look like? What's Jason Oppenheim's overall take on what the next year or two could look like in the United States real estate market?
Well-phrased question. Normally, I'm a little bit more confident in my responses to where the market's headed. You know, we're in a kind of a tumultuous time. I think there are some headwinds, and I think there's some kind of complicated things out in the macroeconomic world that I don't have my head around, and I'm not quite certain of. For example, I don't know if the Russian-Ukraine war is going to get worse or better. I don't know if oil is going to go down to $80 a barrel or $175 a barrel. I don't know if interest rates are going to go to 5% or 7%. But I mean, if I had to just kind of surmise based on, you know, the existing evidence, I would say we're probably going to see a cooling in the markets in the 3 million and under range. I think we're probably a minor cooling. You know, I don't think we're going to see any, you know, crash or any, you know, a macro adjustment. We're just going to see a leveling off and a cooling for a couple of years. I think in the luxury market, like, you know, the 5, 10, 20, I think we're going to see pretty, you know, continual stability, honestly, because I don't think those are interest rate focused so much. I'm rather optimistic about the luxury market. And then geographically speaking, I think there's going to be a pullback to large cities. So I do think you're going to see, like, I think LA will generally do well. New York, I think, as well. I think areas that I think the biggest concern are twofold. Geographically, secondary and tertiary markets. So Las Vegas, maybe Miami, markets that have done really well, Aspen, Montecito, sorry.
Good.
Those markets, I think, you could see a 20-25% drop. And then also, I think Airbnbs. I think we've seen a ton of people like on vacation taking Airbnbs. And I think these Airbnb rentals are going to drop significantly. So the worst thing you could do is go to like Big Bear or, Coachella Valley or wherever, which is already a market that's going to soften, and then go buy like some Airbnb rental there where you could face Airbnb restrictions. You could face a mountain of people needing, if we're going to recession, they're all going to be wanting to sell those homes. So I'd be very careful about buying an investment property in these tertiary areas.
Really good advice, really good outlook. Got less than 5 minutes here with Jason, so I got to ask one question.
Actually, give me 10 seconds.
Take your time.
What? Sorry, I don't know what you're saying. Yeah, sorry.
All right, cool. Here we go. So less than 5 minutes here with Jason. So one thing I got to ask you, a trading secret for a buyer. Someone is looking to work with a buyer, right? Or no, someone's looking to work with an agent who is a buyer. What's one thing they should know about the agent, or a question they should ask the agent as a buyer in today's market?
If you're a buyer looking for an agent?
Yep.
You got to make sure the agent knows the area. So I would really ask the agent, like, how many sales have you done in the area in the last, year or two in your price point that you're looking at? Because real estate is a very nuanced profession. It's just like law. You're not going to hire a great lawyer to do your employment litigation. You're going to hire an employment lawyer that knows what they're doing. You're not going to hire an environmental lawyer to handle your divorce. So same thing in real estate. Don't just hire the best in your price point, in your geographic area.
What's your take on making sure that whoever you're hiring as an agent to buy a house, you're also hiring to sell your house and working and negotiating a discounted agent fee?
Oh, if you are usually you need to sell a house and then before you buy a house, so that he's going to do both. I mean, I don't negotiate my fees. I'm selling a house and buying a house for someone right now, and but agents do. I would be careful of agents that negotiate their fees, to be honest. I've never met a great lawyer that negotiates their fees. And I arguably don't think there are great agents that negotiate their fees. I mean, around the edges, whatever, sure, done a lot of business with them. But usually professionals that are really good at what they do, they know their worth and they don't negotiate their fees. If they don't know their worth and they don't believe in themselves and they don't think that their services are valuable enough, they'll negotiate. And I think that's just a red flag.
Interesting. So I know you said little cuts here and there for people that have earned that business, but in general, Jason Oppenheim does not negotiate his fees.
Correct. And more so, I charge more than everybody else. Demand really 5.5% on listings. Whereas most of my competition asks for 5%. And then there are a lot of my competition that will reduce their rate to get a listing.
Was the okay.
Sorry?
What I was going to say, like, you have such confidence in what you do and you prove it with all your numbers and statistics and your entire resume. So obviously the confidence is aligned. Was that confidence at the same rate before the show, or has the show helped propel your demand and all the success you've had?
I don't think this show has changed anything. I mean, in terms of how much I charge, I've been here doing this for a while. I think it really came from being a lawyer. And then I went, when I was a lawyer, you can pretty much figure out the quality and experience of your attorney based on how much they charge. Even at my own law firm, I was at O'Melveny & Myers. It started at $1,500 an hour or $2,000 an hour for the top most experienced partner. And it literally went down like $100 an hour, partners that didn't do as much business, partners that weren't as experienced, then down to counsel, then down to a 5th-year associate, then a 4th-year associate, then a 3rd-year associate, then a paralegal. And you charged different amounts based on your knowledge, experience, etc. And then another law firm that doesn't draw as many top talent from Stanford and Berkeley and Harvard, they charge a little bit less. So it was, you saw that how much people charge was so tied to the quality of service they provided. And then I went to real estate and everyone's charging the same commission. It made no sense. The worst, shittiest agent is charging the same commission as the absolute best agent. That model didn't make sense to me. I mean, and as I got more experience and felt like I provided better and higher quality service, spend more money on preparation, have concierge services that prepare their houses, more thorough about getting their properties sold and focusing on all the detail of everything, and being way more experienced in how to sell a property than somebody else and how to advise a buyer. Got more knowledgeable in when it related to taxes and 1031 exchanges and all the nuance of everything. Now I feel like I offer the best service to my buyers and sellers as much as any other agent that, that's here. And why shouldn't I get paid more for that? Why should I be charging the same as the person who just got their real estate license 3 months ago and has never done a deal? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's so wild. I've talked to so many people in the real estate world and no one has ever questioned that. And it's such a damn good point. I love it. But Jason, we only have a couple minutes with you. So we got to wrap up with your trading secret. What's one piece of either career advice, financial advice, career acceleration, or even real estate advice you can give to someone that they couldn't find in a textbook, learn in a classroom, or find anywhere on YouTube, only from Jason Oppenheim? Leave us with what your trading secret would be.
I mean, I guess this is a kind of a counterintuitive argument, but one thing that you always see on an online course or on really anything that you're looking for when you go online or read a book or whatever is the trading secret. And I would argue that the trading secret is that there is no trading secret. And I know that might not be the right answer, but there is no secret to success. And stop looking for the secret and maybe go back to what has allowed people to achieve success for hundreds of years. I mean, if there was a secret, it would be out there by now. So the real answer is that it's just really hard work and a ton of hours, gaining experience, being ambitious and knowledgeable about what it is that you want to do, and just actually being exceptional and doing the things necessary to be exceptional at what you do. I went out, and got my contractor's license because I wanted to be able to advise people on remodels, and I wanted to be able to coordinate, and discuss with inspectors and understand all the nuances of a property. I wanted to understand I studied architecture and design. I know everything about roofing materials. I mean, whatever it is, be exceptional at what you do and you will be successful. And you're not going to achieve success unless you open up a book and you read about roofing materials. You can be on YouTube all day long. And if you're Googling the secret to success and not what are the best roofs for Los Angeles or how much does a solar panel roof cost, because that might come up in a question, you're looking up the wrong thing.
I love it. I think you just broke the mold. Trading Secrets podcast. There is no trading secret. We'll expand on that in the recap. Jason, thank you so much for your time. It's fun to see you on TV. Good to talk to you, and all the best and continued success.
Hey, thank you, man.
All right. Take care.